Oh my god, you guys, it's not over. Tati just filed a response on November the 4th to Clark Swanson, her former business partner, which was not long after she recently closed down Tati Beauty. Saucy. So for those of you who don't remember, let me break down this drama really quick for you before we get into the recent lawsuit response from Tati. Halo Beauty co-founder Clark Swanson filed a lawsuit against Tati and her husband James Westbrook in October 2020, claiming the couple committed fraud and negligence while also breaching their fiduciary duty as the owners of the Halo Beauty company. He alleged their wrongdoings led to the company suffering monetary damages, and Swanson alleged the duo committed to collaborations with several other brands without his knowledge. Tati Westbrook said Swanson was suing her for $30 million at the time, and she was blindsided when she first was hit with the lawsuit. So yeah, shout out to Emily D. Baker for bringing the receipts once again and getting her hands on the saucy response from Tati and James Westbrook. Basically, the summary of the complaint just says once again that Tati and James deny any of the allegations made against them by Swanson. Defendants, aka Tati Westbrook, admit that Mr. Westbrook holds 1/3 of the voting shares in Halo Beauty Inc. Defendants are without knowledge as to how Mr. Westbrook could have a beneficial interest in a future venture that does not exist and therefore deny the same. Defendants admit that Mr. Westbrook is a shareholder of a corporation that is a member of the limited liability company doing business as Tati Beauty. Defendants deny the remaining allegations in this paragraph. Defendants admit that the content of any statement made or signed under penalty of perjury speaks for itself. Defendants deny that Mrs. Westbrook stated she sold her Bellevue condo, nor would she, since what she actually previously stated under penalty of perjury in December 2020 was that she was leasing a said condo and attached a copy of the actual lease agreement to said declaration. Defendants admit that they remain in the Greater Seattle area. Now, in the operative facts, this is where things get super saucy. Someone lied. Defendants admit that the lawsuit with this case number was filed in Los Angeles Superior Court and that the contents of any complaint referenced in this paragraph speak for itself. In addition, the complaint referenced in this paragraph is a verified complaint, and despite knowing that the Westbrooks previously had moved to Washington in that verified complaint, Mr. Swanson falsely stated under penalty of perjury that he believed they were still living in Los Angeles County and were citizens of California when that verified complaint was filed. Additionally, that lawsuit appears to be the result of forum shopping because it was brought on behalf of a Nevada entity, and Nevada law does not place a fiduciary duty obligation on limited liability company managers, whereas California law does impose such fiduciary obligations. Defendants deny the remaining allegations in this paragraph, and then they go on to deny all the allegations, and things get super shady. Defendants deny that Mr. Swanson acquired wealth through hard work. Shady. Deny that Mr. Swanson has a rigorous work ethic. Deny that Mr. Swanson's efforts have resulted in any successful business enterprises. Deny that Mr. Swanson's net worth was easily sufficient to fund the necessary obligations. And deny that Mr. Swanson is a skilled businessman. Defendants admit that Mr. Swanson financed, in whole or in part, his capital contribution. Defendants deny that they had knowledge of Mr. Swanson's decision to finance his capital contribution at the time the action was taken. Had Mr. Swanson's decision to finance his capital contribution not been concealed from them, defendants would have objected and would have not gone into business with Mr. Swanson. Defendants deny any remaining allegations contained in this paragraph. Defendants admit that Mr. Swanson had disclosed to Mr. Westbrook on numerous occasions that he was struggling with his addiction to clonidine. Defendants further admit that this disclosure was disconcerting to them. Defendants deny any remaining allegations in this paragraph. Defendants admit that they are aware Mr. Swanson was taking clonidine, but deny it was exclusively for treating tinnitus, as Mr. Swanson has made several disclosures to Mr. Westbrook about Mr. Swanson's acquisition and misuse of prescription drugs, and complained that, when he was not taking it, he would suffer from anxiety. Defendants admit Mr. Swanson informed Mr. Westbrook that Mr. Swanson was attempting to taper off his use of clonidine by taking lower doses, but Mr. Swanson stated that he struggled and often was unsuccessful with reducing his use of the drug. Defendants also admit that Mr. Swanson complained frequently that the manufacturer of clonidine should be held liable for not disclosing the drug's addictive properties, and that someone needed to file a class action lawsuit to teach them a lesson. Defendants deny the remaining allegations in this paragraph. Defendants also deny that Mr. Swanson ever managed the day-to-day operations of Halo Beauty with any amount of skill, and defendants further deny that they ever praised Mr. Swanson for such management. Defendants deny the remaining allegations in this paragraph. Further, to the extent this paragraph relies on an alleged transcript or content of an audio recording purportedly taken by plaintiff, defendants did not consent to any such audio recording and deny the contents and authenticity of any alleged transcript of such audio recording. The allegations in this paragraph have no legal significance to the claims made by plaintiff. To the extent this paragraph requires a response, defendants deny that they intended to launch all beauty products through Halo Beauty. Defendants admit that they engaged in negotiations of certain business arrangements regarding Halo Beauty on or about August 1st, 2017, which negotiations thereafter continued for several months, ultimately culminating in a written agreement between the parties of the terms to which they were willing to be bound. Now, things just keep getting saucier. This is where the internet drama starts to unfold. We're told how Swanson was getting in touch with drama channels and spilling the tea. Defendants admit that they have nothing to be ashamed about. Defendants deny the remaining allegations in this paragraph. Defendants admit that the Los Angeles lawsuit received media attention, especially since Mr. Swanson was sending the complaint to others with instructions to break the story about the existence of said lawsuit. Defendants admit that the media attention was overwhelmingly negative towards Mrs. Westbrook. However, despite Mr. Swanson's boasting of his sabotage of Mrs. Westbrook, defendants deny that her subscriber base went into a nosedive. Defendants lack information to admit or deny the remaining allegations in this paragraph and therefore deny the same. The allegations in this paragraph have no legal significance to the claims made by plaintiff. To the extent this paragraph requires a response, defendants admit that Mrs. Westbrook uploaded a YouTube video titled "By Sister." Defendants deny that Mrs. Westbrook made defamatory statements about anyone or avowed any stereotypes. Defendants are without sufficient information to admit or deny the remaining allegations in this paragraph and therefore deny the same. The allegations in this paragraph have no legal significance to the claims made by plaintiff. To the extent this paragraph requires a response, defendants admit that James Charles posted a video titled "No More Lies," which is now considered by the general public to be filled with falsehoods, as there have been multiple reports of James Charles's inappropriate behaviour that have come to light after the "No More Lies" video was posted. Defendants further admit that Mrs. Westbrook has 3 million more subscribers today than she had before uploading the "By Sister" video, and her channel is considered one of the most popular YouTube beauty channels in the world. Defendants deny that any statements in the "By Sister" video were not truthful. Defendants are without sufficient information to admit or deny the remaining allegations in this paragraph and therefore deny the same. Saucy James Charles drama. And once again, the shade towards Swanson continued further on in the lawsuit, where Tati claims, unlike Swanson, she never fed any information to the drama channels. And then in the facts section of the lawsuit, it just goes over everything already mentioned in previous lawsuits about Swanson and what he was like to work with, etc. And then I can't remember if this was covered in a prior lawsuit or if this is the first time we're hearing this, but Swanson allegedly had recordings that could ruin Tati's career. So let's get into this tea. Then in November 2020, Mr. Swanson called a childhood friend of Mrs. Westbrook. During said phone call, Mr. Swanson disparaged Mr. Westbrook by telling the friend that Mr. Westbrook had removed his mother from life support to steal his sister's inheritance and that Mrs. Westbrook should be worried for her safety. During the same phone call, Mr. Swanson threatened that he had an embarrassing recording of Mrs. Westbrook and he would release publicly to ruin her reputation and her career if she did not contact him immediately to settle the California lawsuit. Mr. Swanson told the friend to pass his threat messages along to Mrs. Westbrook and that Mrs. Westbrook must take action to resolve the California lawsuit or he would ruin her. Mr. Swanson further informed the friend that he also had reached out to members of Mrs. Westbrook's family to warn them that he had an embarrassing recording he intended to use to ruin Mrs. Westbrook if she did not settle the California lawsuit. Upon information and belief, the recording that Mr. Swanson referenced in the phone call and was then using to expose the Westbrooks was an secret audio recording that Mr. Swanson took of a confidential business meeting that occurred at Mr. Swanson's home in California between the Westbrooks and Mr. Swanson. The Westbrooks had no knowledge that an audio recording of the confidential communications was taken by Mr. Swanson, and they did not consent to such recording. As a direct and proximate result of Mr. Swanson's conduct, including the illegal recording and extortion, the Westbrooks have suffered financial damages and severe emotional distress. And then the rest of the lawsuit just delves into how everything Swanson did was illegal and how he should be held accountable for the damages he caused. So what do you think about this whole situation now? Let me know your thoughts in the comments.